And at that moment, that was when my manager was the one that said, "Wait a minute. So animals saved you?" I was like, "Huh, I guess they did." Because I had never really thought about that.
Right.
I was a kid. I didn't know. I don't know.
Here we are on the very first episode of Animals, Nature, and You, and I am very excited to start off this season because there will be multiple seasons, but this season is starting off with my good friend, Jungle Jordan. And I purposely asked him to be my first guest for a wide variety of reasons. I know his story and his background. I know his mission, what he's doing. And Animals, Nature, and You is going to be a podcast that really highlights not just the animals, not just nature, but the human side of it too. If there's anything I have learned in my career, that we will get nowhere with animal care and conservation and preserving nature without humans being involved, because humans are the ones that are making the biggest impact on the world today. And to really understand how we can leverage and work with other people as best as we can to appreciate nature, to be a part of nature, to understand wildlife and animals as well, we need to understand ourselves just as much. And Jordan's story offers up a really great perspective. I've always appreciated when he shares his story, and we have known each other for years, but to give you a little intro to who I'm talking about, he goes by the name Jungle Jordan. He's a former zookeeper, wildlife educator, and content creator. His mission is to make sure that learning about animals is not just fun, but it's accessible for all. And as it says in his bio, through his engaging storytelling and energetic personality, and trust me, this guy has got great energy and a wonderful heart, he inspires a diverse audience to appreciate wildlife and understand conservation. And really, that's so important. He also helps explore animal careers. If you've ever caught any of his videos, he goes to zoos all over the place, talks to zookeepers and animal care staff, bringing that information to the general public behind the scenes and sort of special moments as well. Now, using his platform that he has, he not only raises awareness about protecting the natural world, but also, and I love this, empowers the next generation to follow their passion no matter the obstacles. And we'll get into that in this conversation with Jungle Jordan, I promise you that. And Jordan, of course, is very dedicated to increasing diversity and inclusivity in the animal field, basically ensuring that everyone feels welcome in that world of wildlife. And I love that so much. Dear listeners, as we get through this episode, I want to make sure you also listen to the very end. Not only is the episode great in the sense that I know Jordan's going to share a lot of his personal story, I have some questions lined up for him, but I'm also going to ask him at the very end about, well, what animal, not his favorite animal, what animal gave him the best aha moment? And you're going to want to hear this. So with that, we're going to tune in to getting Jordan here in the little online studio. Well, I can't thank you enough, Jordan, for taking the time to join me, and especially this episode, the very first episode of the new podcast. It is an honor and pleasure to have you as my guest.
This is an honor for you to actually think about me to have me as your first. So that's pretty amazing. I feel very special. And
Well,
it just unfortunately happened to be on the day that I had a dentist appointment. So apologies if my mouth is a little numb.
Well, the fun thing for our audience is you've just come from the dentist and I'm just getting over a cold. So between the two of us, we're going to sound a little bit different, but oh well.
Double whammy on my end, because I'm also getting over a little illness. So
Tis the season.
See,
season. There it is.
Excuse me.
Well, as everyone heard in the intro, you've come from the zookeeper background. You do a lot right now for education and wildlife education, but also making sure that there's inclusivity. There is an opportunity for those who may not look at animal care as an option or something in conservation as an option for them to shine a light on the fact that it could be for them. And I've known you for a while. For those who are listening and don't know the history between Jordan and I, we've been in touch on Instagram and social media for years now. We've had a couple opportunities to meet in person, whether it was in Seattle or down here in San Diego. we've done lives together on Instagram. We've swapped good stories. We both nerd out on animal facts. But one thing that I know the heart and root of this podcast is helping discover, understand, uncover, be curious about the connection animals and nature and humans have. And one part of your story that has always stuck with me, Jordan, is how you came into this, how your youth and your experiences and challenges there then led you into that connection to animals and wildlife. So I'm going to shut up and let you share what that experience was with our audience.
Okay. Well, as a kid, I was always obsessed with animals. Like I always knew there was some kind of connection there. I was like, wow, like something about them I resonated with, right? I was always just interested in their behavior and what they did, how they moved around, how they ate, how they slept, all of that. And I grew up in my backyard watching bald eagles, a nesting pair of bald eagles, come back every year, add to their nest, and just become a massive nest. And I remember watching their little eaglets grow, fledge, and fly off. And it was just really amazing to see. And that's what I grew up watching, right? Being here in the Pacific Northwest, I've been very fortunate to have that in the backyard. But so growing up, I have ADHD, and as a kid, I dealt with anger management issues. Um, so I was always different. I was always seen as different, and I always felt off, and I would deal with kids trying to bully and tease me because of the level of anger that I would have. They thought it was funny to watch me get angry and upset. So I would fight. I would fight people and I would get suspended from schools. I got expelled from 3 different schools
Wow.
for fighting as a young kid. And my mom she just couldn't figure out what it was and how to help me. And kids thought I was different because of how much I liked animals. But I would walk around the zoo as a 5-year-old, walking around, running from exhibit to exhibit. I still have home video of this, exhibit to exhibit, just staring and being in awe and talking to the strangers about the animals that were there. Like just, hey, do you know this about this animal? And my mom said she was just like, yeah, you just talk to anybody, Jordan. And I loved it. So fast forward as I'm getting older, I'm still getting in trouble, but I was a smart kid. So my mom reached out to the local zoo here in Seattle and was trying to find a way like to give me an outlet to basically, be around the animals. And so she reached out to the volunteering department and asked if they would take on an 11-year-old. I was 11 at the time, to take on an 11-year-old as a volunteer. And initially they said no, I'm too young, all that, blah blah blah. But my mom is very persistent. She can be pretty pushy at times, but a nice pushy. Like, hey, well, what about this? What about that? And they were like, okay, fine, hold on. Let's ask the zookeepers. Talk to the zookeepers. Said, you know what? Bring them in, see what happens. And they brought me into the family farm area. That was with the goats and the sheep and the chickens and the rabbits, all that stuff, and the donkeys. And they met me and they were like, wow, this kid is weird. Like good, like good weird, like he's different. Like he's like oddly into this. And he's like, I was spending my summers there, Rick. Like my summer was spent there. They met me. They were like, okay, he's different. He's really into this. He's awesome. Let's keep him. So I became the youngest volunteer in their history. And so that was me walking around and just learning how to walk goats and sheep on in harnesses and leads. And there's actually there was a donkey there that was alive back when I was a volunteer. All up until 2 years ago, he just passed away. So 20 something years later,
Wow.
isn't that crazy?
That's
Um,
awesome. And it's funny you
but
mentioned, I have to
yeah,
interrupt real quick. It's funny you
yeah,
mentioned the donkeys because I have a picture of me as a kid at that zoo
Mhm.
with one of the donkeys.
Do you
I don't
really?
know which one it was, and I'm older than you are, so who
Right.
knows? But it's
Well, but
funny.
they
It's
live so
funny you mentioned
long.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, donkeys are amazing, and I actually didn't realize how long donkeys lived until, until I realized. I think his name was Sam. Sam?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I think the people that know what I'm talking about. They'll be able to, you know, um, they he was an awesome and cute little donkey. Uh-oh, one
I'm
second,
here.
sorry. Um, yeah, so what I learned, they actually started a, teen program shortly after, a couple years later, because they realized that kids of that age really wanted to be around the zoo, and they wanted to provide an opportunity to, like, foster that growth. And, so after that year, Rick, 11 years old, after that year, that was actually the last year I was ever suspended. So before that school season, that was the last year I ever got suspended from school. I didn't get into fights. Something changed. And the reason why I feel like I've connected with animals is because I always felt so misunderstood and different. And I felt like animals were misunderstood. And so I wanted to be like, you know, the person that connects with the animals because they're different like me. And, I thought I was trying to save the animals. But something that I learned was that they actually saved me because I was headed down a path that could have led me in prison, like, fighting and, getting in trouble in schools and just couldn't control this anger. But the animals always calmed me down and I had this connection with them. So that is the path of where I am today.
Yeah, and I have always admired how you say that, how you present that is that, you've always thought or you had thought that, you know, you were the one that would be saving the animals, but in hindsight and the position you're in now, you realize that they saved you. And it was interesting too when you said they were different, and so you wanted to be the person to help connect them to other people. And one thing I've learned in my path and my experiences in life where we show up as the empathetic caregiver and the I can take care of this and I can help make connections between others is often we're showing up as that person we wished was there for us. And
Yeah.
so does that match up too in the sense that, it would have been nice if there was someone who could have interpreted you for others,
Yeah.
in your
Yes.
youth?
Most definitely. I think it was very confusing for a lot of people to try to really understand what was going on in me, right? And so the animals, yeah, I felt that connection. Like it, there was a lot of internal struggles, right, that I was going through at the time, but some people were like, well, what can a kid go through? But no, there's a lot of trauma and things that
Absolutely.
kids can,
Absolutely.
so it was there. I think that, yeah, I didn't really learn this actually until it was my manager told me back in 2021. We were visiting that zoo for the first time together, and we were wearing face masks and things like that. And I'm in normal clothes, no uniform. I didn't work at the facility anymore. And I remember seeing the hippo. And I walked by the hippo exhibit, and I start talking because I'm talking to my manager about the hippos that I used to work with. And the hippo hadn't seen me for like maybe two-ish years, a little over 2 years. It turns its head and looks my direction. And I have a face mask and street clothes on. The hippo's like, wait a minute. And then walks over, like, my direction. And I say, hi. And then the hippo opened its mouth, like, my direction, like asking me for food because it recognized that
Right.
I was a person that used to do that. And they recognized my voice from afar. So, and at that moment, that was when my manager was the one that said, wait a minute. So animals saved you. I was like, huh. I guess they did. Because I had never really thought about that.
Right.
I was a kid. I didn't know. I don't know. I was always a happy, smiley kid, right? But I had that other side that just took over.
Mhm.
If I was feeling anxious, like any anxiety, or depression, or all these different feelings that you don't know how to express as a kid, right? And so you just lash out. And yeah, no, those animals, they did a number on me
In a good way.
in a good way.
So let me ask you this. Knowing what you know now versus you can look back at your experience as a kid and obviously as a kid, you don't know what it is necessarily, why there's that sense of grounding or that sense of belonging, no need to get into the anxiety or fight or flight or any of that. As an adult now and having some time to reflect and having some growth period over these last few years, that conversation with your old manager, et cetera, can you put a finger on what it was when you were a kid, what it was being around the animals or being put in charge of them or having something to care for that wouldn't judge you, that was just happy you were there? Like, there's all these anecdotal things. And this is, I mean, obviously not scientific by any means, but I am curious, like if you've had a chance to reflect back and go, well, yeah, I think it was this.
There was a connection. There was a connection. Yeah, they didn't judge me. They well. We won't go there, but there 100% are those animals that judge you. But but they still accept you, right?
Yeah.
Right? But no, but yeah, they for the most part they don't judge you. You are in that moment the most important thing to them. And it was good to feel like I belonged somewhere. It because I've dealt with this my entire life, and I'm sorry getting emotional. Rick, why do you always do this to me? um, it it felt good to have a place, right? Like taking care of the animals made me feel like, okay, I can, because I've always had this thing in me where I want to make people feel happy. I want to make people feel good about themselves. I want to make people feel the most wonderful they've ever felt. And so seeing the animals feel the most wonderful they've ever felt just because I gave them a piece of fruit, it was like the most amazing thing. Like it wasn't like I had power or anything. It just was like, wow, I can provide, you know? I'm not worthless. I'm not trying to get like into self-talk, but I'm worth something. I mean something to somebody, right? And I have a moment where I can shine. And that's kind of what it felt like with the animals. Like I was like people with dogs, right? Like you are everything to that dog. And when you take care of,
Yeah.
you are their life, So it's kind of how it feels with the zoo animals, I guess.
But you had mentioned that sense of belonging too, and it makes me think, I don't remember where I heard this a few years ago, that it is the actual value isn't being included, it is feeling like you belong.
Yeah.
And going back to what you said earlier when you were a kid and people would antagonize you because it was funny to watch you get angry because you'd go from 0 to 100 so quick.
Mm.
You're still included in the classroom. You're still included in everything going on at school. But to be amongst the animals, you felt like you belonged. To be amongst other people taking care of animals that appreciated them, you felt like you belonged, and that's a different level. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and I felt like I found my tribe, and unfortunately, even within my tribe, because being a African American zookeeper, I even felt different there. Pretty heavily. But but who's to say? Well, I've learned a lot of this in therapy, but who's to say that wasn't just on like in my own head, right? But yes, I did have some instances that led me to where I am today that were not the greatest, for sure. But like for the most part, I love how all of us zookeepers are the same type of weird. So that makes me happy. I felt like it's a difference. Like you've been to conferences and things. Like being at those conferences, I'm like, wow, these are my people. You're
Yeah.
all weirdos, and I love it. I love it here. you
Yeah,
know?
and it's funny too. You mentioned being African American zookeeper. I know I've been in business with zoos
Mhm.
for 30 plus years now, and it's not much of
No.
diversity. And I know we've talked about it before. It's one thing that you said to me once growing up. You just didn't see anybody in that
Right.
realm that looked like you.
Right.
And honestly, being a white dude in this country, I look around, I see every position in the world, somebody who looks like me. It seems
Right.
relatable. Do you mind if I
Yeah.
ask, like, for you growing up, because that's I can empathize, I can sympathize with the fact that you didn't see that in that world, but
Mhm.
I've never experienced that. Can you put words to that at all? Like for other listeners and other people out there who
Yes.
may not realize the importance of diversity and representation, can you share that perspective?
It's isolating. That's the in a single word, isolating. It just you feel like you're walking on eggshells a lot of times, like you can't fully be yourself because, you're just so different. And like growing up, it was hard, right? So growing up in the inner city, Seattle, you know, it wasn't like the okay thing to like animals, right? No one knew zookeeping was a career as or a job option, right? So like me being so into animals, historically, we're not supposed to like animals as African Americans. Like we're supposed to fear them. We're supposed to be afraid of them, which I can go deep into that and systemic, you know, issues, all that
Oh
kind of stuff.
yeah,
I can go into
absolutely.
that with with dogs and
Certainly, yes.
canines, all that stuff. I can go into that, but keep it light. Um, but yeah, it was very isolating back then, even with the people that I grew up around, because they're like, okay, well, you're not like, why are you so weird? Why do you like animals? You're not like us, okay? And then I go to in the zoo world, it's just me and maybe one person, right? Maybe, and they hang out together, they do things together. Like, do I invite myself? Do I get invited? That kind of stuff. Do they feel weird around me? I've been called weird names by zoo volunteers. Like, and that's a whole other story. We might get into that. That's a whole story, which I think I've told you that once before
Yeah.
about the volunteer. Yeah, I've had some encounters that weren't the most pleasant, and people, when you are by yourself and no one else looks like you feel like you have to do whatever you can to blend in and to match everybody else around you. But, you know, there's there's multiple things that are kind of holding me apart from everybody else. I'm a 6'4" black dude, right? So like one, like I used to get the comments, why aren't you playing a sport? Like go play something. Okay, listen. First thing, yes, I play sports, okay? Yes, I'm good at basketball, but that was not the career path I chose. I do what I want to do. And so that's the biggest thing for me is I try to make sure people realize they can do what they want to do without worrying about what they look like.
Mm,
Yes, it was a battle. 100%. There's a lot of things against me in this field, but I try not to acknowledge them. I mean, I acknowledge them, but I push through them,
right.
you know? Ugh.
Well, and I'm going to jump in real quick. I think
Yeah.
that is what also I've always been so inspired by your work and your dedication to acknowledging the fact that there are societal expectations put on you and, you know, anybody else that is beyond a white male, really, that you it takes a lot of strength and integrity and resilience to move beyond that and then turn around and go, you know what? I want to be able to stand up, raise my hand for the younger generation behind me so they can see this as an option. And the value in that the way you approach that. And, it's even in your bio, how you want to make sure the next generation, even with whatever barriers they may have, can still step into the roles they want to do, not the roles society expects them to do. And there's such value in that, because I know from my own experience working with kids that it's across the board. Most every kid is excited about wildlife, excited about animals, curious about nature. But then as we grow, so much of that curiosity is forced to be stuffed away for one reason or another.
Mm,
And you taking the position of like, okay, well, yeah, that exists, but we're still going to show them
mhm.
that there are options, whether it's career, hobby, passion, whatever it may be, to
Yep.
be involved in animal care, to be involved in conservation. And that's one thing I've always greatly admired about you, your resilience, your integrity, your passion. And that's not to say, we don't have down days, we don't have low
Of
points, we don't have
course.
struggles. Goodness, we all do. But you've stuck with it and you keep working at it, and the value in bringing up the next generation and being that role model for them is just so awesome. And I greatly appreciate that about
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. No, Rick, the biggest word I think you missed there, though, is that I'm stubborn. I, I refuse to be.
You're like one of those donkeys you took care of.
Yeah, I am a stubborn donkey. That is 100% me. No, it's funny actually. One of the. I'm gonna go here, and I think the people that they're watching from my childhood, because kids used to like name call stuff like that, right? One of the ones they used to call me was Donkey from Shrek, because of my giant smile, and I think because I talked a lot like Eddie Murphy, and anyways, that was a whole thing. But stubbornness, donkey. And I go snowboarding. That is something that I feel like needs to be accessible to everybody. But what's one of those things that's not that accessible? You know how expensive it is to go snowboarding or skiing? Like that's so because of that, I make this visible. Like I'm like, hey, I'm posting about this. Even on my page, it's about animals. I post about snowboarding on there, right? Because I want people to see, hey, I'm doing stuff like this. Because you can too. But anyways, I'm going off the talking about animals here, Rick.
Hey, we are talking about animals, but we're also talking about you. And that's one thing I had mentioned before we started recording, that I want this to be an interview about you, because although
Right.
I know you well and we've shared a lot of fun banter about animals, and I will have you on. Goodness, this podcast is about animals, natures, and people, and
And you.
you'll be on again because we're going to talk about animals. But I wanted this first episode to really be that launch point, to recognize that it is the humans, it's what we are that makes a difference. It makes that impact, whether it is animal care, whether it's conservation, whether it's inspiring others. And you're doing multiple. You went from being a keeper to being an influencer about wildlife and about wildlife conservation, wildlife education. You do stuff on your website where you have kids joining the academy. You're doing things where you're teaching kids remotely. You're also going to zoos around the nation. But all of this doesn't just come from nowhere. And the fact that, you call it stubborn, I call it resilience, whatever it may be, buddy. The fact that you're doing this is important, and I see it from the outside, see what you're doing, and all the things you are putting out there, to whether it's make a difference or whether it's to just make sure you feel you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, whatever you want to call it. I go back to what happened near the end of last year, or I guess fall of last year, when Jane Goodall passed away, and all
Yeah,
those quotes are
sad.
coming out, all the videos are coming out. And one thing that has always stuck with me, that she has been a champion for, is recognizing that we all make an impact, period, full stop. But that it's up to us to choose what kind of impact we want to make. And that's where I look at you and everyone else who's going to be on this podcast. We got some great guests coming up. Some interviews have already happened. These are impact makers. We're all impact makers, and we're all making our ripples, and we're all choosing the path in which we're going to do it. And I look at the impact you're having, and you and I have talked about this too, where it's sort of that, we don't always get to see the full effect of the ripples that we make, uh, but you're making them, and I see them, and I know they're out there. But it's also worth people, I think, understanding what makes us who we are, what makes us, what put us on this path to choose this is going to be the hill I stand on and the song I sing and the words I chant and the people I encourage. So I think all of this is so important. I appreciate you sharing it.
Oh, thank you, Rick. That's, you brought a tear to my eye just now. Thank you for that. It is really hard for me, and this has been really hard for me. I think you've known this about me for a long time, but I'm really bad about being proud of what I've done, or more so recognizing what I've been able to do. I tend to do something, I think about it for a second, and then bam, to the next thing. And I've been going over that in therapy. I'm trying to count my wins. I have a really hard time with that because of my stubbornness. I feel like or my resilience, as you say, I feel like I have not done enough. And but I have to I have a little mantra that I've been trying to tell myself I am enough, right? Like I've done so much, like you said, and I have to remind myself of that. And that's okay. And I've been really bad about tuning my own horn. That's one of my issues. I'm not good at self-promotion. And so I've been trying to get those words out of my vocabulary that I'm not good at something, because it's okay to not be good. But I am getting that out of my vocabulary so I can realize that I have done amazing stuff. Like I'm traveling to Arizona in 2 weeks to film at a zoo. Like that I've been able to communicate with these facilities and just travel as far as I've gone and travel as much as I have, right? Like I'm speaking at a conference in February, and that is what is reminding me continuously that I am making an impact. I do mean something to somebody. And it's okay to say those things to help you realize that you are worth what you think you are, or more than what you think you are. So
would you say, and this comes from my own personal experience, and it might just be me, that idea or that sense of not doing enough, which puts us in this spiral of nonstop behavior, which then can easily lead to burnout. But it just seems that there is so much that needs to be done in conservation, in wildlife education, that as much as I admire the concept of that we all have that impact and we make a difference, sometimes it just feels like there's this insurmountable tsunami of things that need to be done. And it's just like, how am I making that difference? If so for me, when I feel that sense of I don't think I've done enough, I need to keep going, I need to do more.
yeah.
It's because of that. You look at the world around you, it just seems like so much. Do you think that might be part of what you're experiencing also? Or is it more so in that you have the voice in the back of your head that's you're not so good?
Well, both. For sure, both. I definitely feel like because of what's happening on our planet, it's I feel like such a small little piece, like a little grain of rice blended, which we are, but I'm trying to make a little bit more of an impact. I was trying to think of a rice analogy or rice, not analogy. So I was trying to think of something with rice. I didn't have one. So rice. I want to be more than rice.
It's funny.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's funny. Just today, so for those listening and watching, we're recording this a couple weeks before it comes out. Just today on Instagram, I came across this thing where it's this old video of Queen Elizabeth talking about how each person doing one little bit of kindness does actually matter in society. And she makes the analogy between each of us being a grain of sand. If each of us do something, that pile of sand outweighs that chunk of lead. And I was like, ooh.
That's a good one.
Ooh.
I
hat
like
tip to Queen Elizabeth on that one.
I
But
like that.
but I kind of feel like that's where you were going with your rice analogy, in the sense of that
Yes.
sometimes we feel so small and insignificant. And that's why I always try to remind myself and get my internal coach going, is that,
Mhm.
hey, if I'm a grain of sand and I can get 3 or 4 other grains of sand,
Right.
that's 3 or 4 more than what was there the day before. And if I can convince them
Exactly.
to get 2 more also, and beyond that, and that's where it starts to reach past where we can see it. But yeah,
It-
it's not without
what
its
um
challenges.
what I teach people, I work with interns. I work in when I do my talks and things. I talk about like the impact of social media,
Mhm.
right? And you may think you don't have many likes because you only got like 100 likes, and you have, I don't know, 1,000 people following you, but you only got only 100 of them liked it. But what I have to think about is you have to put perspective to it. Take 100 people and put them in a small room. Is that room packed? Right. You can't
Yep.
move around in a small room with 100 people. So you got to think about perspective, right? Think about your audience, but still 100 people you've now changed, you've impacted. And there's a lot of people. I want people to try to think if they can actually name 100 people.
Right?
Like just think about how many people that actually is.
Yeah.
And to go back to the earlier thing, yes, it's the what's going on in the world, but yes, be completely honest and transparent. Yes, I had those my internal thoughts that were telling me, "Oh, you're not good. You're not good enough." Right? Because of the trauma from childhood, all these different things of oh, you're weird, you're strange, you're what was the other word they call me? A psycho. Like all those different. Oh yeah,
So
I got
nice. So
kids are
nice.
great. Um but all those different terms, right? And then when you hear that stuff often enough, you start to believe it.
Absolutely.
Or that little, call it a shadow monster in the back of your head. My old life coach called it that. Think of shadow monster in the back of your head, just like, mm, mm, mm. And it's trying to find a way to protect you, but overly protect you, like that voice in the back of your head, right? So yes, I've been driven by that voice, but I've also been driven because I feel like I want to make more of an impact. Will that be the death of me? Eh,
What a way
probably
to
not.
go.
No, I think I'm actually reaching a very healthy point in my life right now after all this stuff that I've been through in the last 4 years. You
Good.
know,
Good.
yeah, I'm feeling very good about myself these days. So I'm
Love it.
happy.
Good. As you
Yeah.
should be. As you should be. And when we are at that stage, we tend to even be able to do more of an impact. So with that, real quick, can you share with everyone
Mhm.
listening, what are some of the things you're working on here in 2026 to make an impact?
Ooh. Okay. So I am working on personal growth, but specifically being okay with just being okay.
Mm.
Yeah, like meaning that I don't have to be the best at something. I don't have to have 1,000 likes on something. I don't have to, like there's no like what am I measuring? Like what's my unit of measure for success,
Mm.
right? Like I don't have to make $500,000, which I don't know what kind of zookeeper makes that kind of money. But
I've met one.
yeah. um, right, because we're not in this for that. But yeah, like I am aiming for just happiness and being able to touch at least one person every day. Getting to somebody, like who knows with, on a personal level, professional level, at work, at home, you know, at the post office, whatever, right? Like I am feeling so much more energetic and I want to keep that energy going into 2026. And um saying yes. It's not everything because I can get very unhealthy,
Sure.
but I'm getting out of my comfort zone
Mhm.
and changing things up because that's how social media works. Yeah, that seems to be the theme right now for me that I'm talking about with social media. It is always evolving and always changing. And so I think we as people can too. If you stay stagnant in your ways, nothing will happen. There's not really growth. Learn it, read a new book, learn a new trade. I don't know. Study geometry. Who wants to do that? Well, what's the hard one? Calculus? Go study calculus. I don't know. What do you need calculus for?
You
The
got me.
average human doesn't. I don't need it.
Not me. I mean, I'm sure it's important for stuff that I use, like this computer we're using and the mic I have and all the other science and engineering. But yeah, my world, I have yet to need calculus. Not to say it's not
Yeah,
needed somewhere.
it's needed somewhere.
I,
Not for me right now. But you know what
I
you're
want,
doing
I
different.
want to go
Go
back
ahead.
to what you said though
Sorry. Go ahead.
about you're leaning into this year. It sounds like you're being very conscious of the self-care side of things.
Yes.
And that is very much a part of what this podcast will also be about, in the sense that I really want people to understand the connection we have, not only in taking care of the environment. So a lot of people you and I work with get that burnout. They get that sense of it's never enough. Am I enough? Can I even do this? Why is the world just falling down around me while I'm trying to help prop it up? So the value in self-care allows us to show up and do that kind of work and inspire others and educate others and show up for meaningful conversations around wildlife and conservation, and getting outside, why that's important, helping, like you were saying, inspire other kids to go, look, you can do these things too, even though
Yeah.
your immediate circle may say, no, you can't. That's not what we do.
Yep.
All of that, it's all connected. And I appreciate that you are being so open and candid with that side of things, because I think it's important for us to recognize in the animal care world, in the animal conservation world, in the world of people just being curious about these things as they learn more and stuff. I mean, my path, goodness, I started off just crazy about animals. And I started to learn, wait a minute, there's all these challenges they're facing. I need to educate people about it. Now you can't shut me up about it. But with that, as I recognize other people could follow that path too, and it can seem overwhelming. And that's where that sense of, I just want to make sure I'm going to touch one person each day, but also make sure I'm taking care of myself, that I'm
Yeah.
recognizing that I need to be cared for and I can do that.
Right.
So I appreciate you bringing all of that up too, because it is part of the bigger dynamic of how everything's connected. So
Right.
that's
Shoot.
awesome that you're doing that, man.
Thank you. My self-care this season, this winter season, is snowboarding.
There you go.
I've become that's become my new ADHD obsession. Like I have I have seasons of where I'm like hyper focused on something.
Sure.
And snowboarding right now is my thing. And that's what I love it so much. And I vow this to myself, I haven't taken a non-work trip, like flight, vacation,
Mm-hmm.
in like 3 years. So I'm gonna go somewhere. I don't
Nice.
know where, but I'm gonna go somewhere. I can't count Costa Rica because that's technically a jungle Jordan related thing. But so I'm gonna go. I mean, I still want to. That's gonna be so much fun. But
I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be work, but it's gonna be fun work.
it's gonna be fun work. And that's the other issue though too, because my zoo trips, yes, they're 100% work. But when I'm there at the zoo, meeting the keepers, meeting the animals, you know how much fun that is for me.
Oh, I do. Absolutely used to do
You
that all
know,
the time.
like
Yeah.
it's so much fun. Like it's like a blur. And that's why like I'll be there 2 days straight typically from dawn till dusk filming, and it's just like bouncing from one place to the next, but it's so much fun for me. Like it's talk about obsession, right? I
Yeah.
wouldn't obviously be doing it if I wasn't obsessed with it. But self-care is very important. Get out and do something fun for yourself. And if sitting at home reading a book is your version of fun, do that. Read
Right?
5 books. 320.
Exactly. Since you brought it up, I'm going to switch gears
Yes.
real quick here. Out of the self-care talk, and I want to touch on Costa Rica. You brought it up, so I've got to ask, what was, well, first of all, first part, quick synopsis. What are we even talking about for those who don't know?
Oh.
And then I want to find out what was the reasoning behind choosing to do this. Because as you mentioned, it's a work trip.
So the Costa Rica trip is going to be really fun. I'm actually hosting a trip for anybody to go this year in May 15th through the 21st. And it's basically just a guided, fun, nature, relaxing time. Seeing animals, snorkeling, going to see this volcano, going to a natural hot springs resort, all these different cool, fun, exciting. Oh, zip line! Don't forget zip line. It's gonna be so much fun.
Don't forget the zip line.
Don't forget zip line. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But the point is, just get out and experience nature, but also relax. So it's not gonna be like crazy, like woodsy, outdoorsy, but there's definitely nature. It's gonna be all around you, Costa Rica. And why did I choose to do this? Because I've never done anything like this, and this is me exploring. I've never been outside of the country except to Paris once a long time ago. Uh, that trip is out of my mind. But what happened happened. I went and I'm back. But
I survived.
No, I survived. No. But this would be my first time going out of the country, and especially to experience nature.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do this because I know it's hard for people to want to leave the country, get out of their comfort zone, because it's a lot of fear involved in travel, right? And that's me. And so I feel if I lead this and prove that, hey, I can do it, so can you guys. So Costa Rica for mayor 2026.
Right on. Where can people find out more information about that? Because I can't go this year, but if I could, I would be there in a heartbeat. I highly recommend anybody who wants to have a fun experience in Costa Rica, you go with Jungle Jordan.
But you're gonna have fun.
I know, right? I'm jealous. I wish I could go. So how can people find out more about this work? And is there a website or?
So there's a link on my bio. You'll find it there, and it's being thrown by a group called Trova Trip, and they're kind of like spearheading it, and I'm like just like the guide, and who'll be out there with you, and we'll have a professional guide on top of that. So
Nice.
you'll have me, the amateur guide for animals, and then you'll have a professional guide for everything else, safe wise. I am not liable for your safety, people. I'm kidding.
Read the fine print. Read the fine print.
Yeah, fine print.
So
man, I'm gonna something's gonna happen to me someday.
Oh, please! I hope not. I hope not.
Yeah,
Not
I
for a
hope
long
not.
time, anyhow.
Yeah,
Okay,
right,
so
Yes.
so coming off talking about Costa Rica, then, and you're the animal expert that'll be on the trip, along with someone local there as well.
Right.
You have a long history with animals. I have a long history with animals. I want to ask before we wrap this up, instead of the age-old question, what's your favorite animal? Which, I think we'll do an episode on favorite animals at some point.
Oh, that'd be so much fun.
But today, I want to ask you, is there an animal, or I'm sure there's probably more than one, but can you select an animal in your history and experiences that has given you the biggest surprise or aha moment?
Okay, you know what? So, one that I have in my head was, I mentioned them a little earlier, maybe as like just a little playful joke, but hippos,
Oh,
Nile hippos. So the biggest aha moment for me, besides being recognized by one in their intelligence, was when I first encountered and was like training under one of my coworkers at the time. Like I was shadowing them to work the area, and she said, "Okay, you want to do some? Let's want to watch some training with the hippos." I was like, "Okay, what can a hippo do?" Like I wonder, like what do they know, right? Like just open your mouth, right? That's it, right? No,
right? Hungry,
no.
hungry hippo. That's what it is.
Hungry hippos. That's what they do. But no, first off, for people that don't know, hippos in human care are actually really sweet, really kind. They're really known to be territorial in the wild, right? Like, and they're really gnarly because they will protect their space. And
Absolutely.
people
Yeah.
often will canoe over them unknowingly because they can't swim. They kind of just glide along the bottom of the river's edge, river's floor, right? So they pop out and take people out, unfortunately. But they're so intelligent. The biggest moment was that the keeper goes, okay, open. So yeah, typical, open your mouth. Oh, great. Awesome. That's all great. Touching around in there. But then she said, down. This hippo lays down. But that wasn't the biggest surprise for me. She said, roll.
Oh, no way.
And so the hippo like took that 3,000-pound body and like rolled onto its side, like with its legs up in the air off to the side. And I was like, really? I've never seen the hippo do that, like on land, just and like. Well, first, okay, that's a lot of weight to be down there, right? But they are comfortably doing this motion, and that was like, I was a baby keeper at the time. I was like, this hippo just rolled and like listened to this keeper like that. I don't know. It was okay. To people listening, this might not sound that aha, but to me in that moment, I was like, no way, this hippo was just listening to her and just like doing all these behaviors and just focused and so smart. And they're not elephant level intelligent, but they are really smart. They say elephant never forgets.
Sure.
Neither does a hippo, in my personal opinion. They another
And
one.
I want to
Yeah.
help paint the picture a little bit too, so anybody who's not familiar with how this would work. This is under protective contact, meaning
Yes.
the keeper is not in the same space as the hippo. The keeper is requesting these behaviors. The hippo has an absolute choice to do them or not. And to your point, Jordan, the other part I don't think people understand, because when you usually get to see hippos, when you're at the zoo, you're in a platform above them or they're in the water. When you're standing on the same level of them, even in protective contact, they are as big as a large car. So when you
Huge.
see a large car open up its hood on its own with the big old teeth in there, or a large car roll over onto its side willingly on its own, it's impressive. Absolutely impressive. The fact
Right.
that they trust too, they're exposing vulnerable parts of
Right.
their body at that point, and they trust that this is a safe place to do it. And I know the person asked me to do it. I fully trust them. And then I'm going to get some head of lettuce or a piece of melon or something yummy to chew on because I did this thing that they asked. I totally get it, man. I totally get why that would be one of those moments.
It was
Absolutely.
such an awe-inspiring moment. I was like, wow. Like just yeah, I was in shock. I was like, yeah, like this giant car-sized animal, big car-sized animal, right? Like it's like, how were you doing this? Okay. Um, oh gosh. Oh, another one I had was actually, it's more of a sweet, cutesy moment just because it was just because. Um, Wolverines.
Ah,
Wolverines. I'll never forget him. His name was Diablo. He passed away years ago, but you know, also Wolverines have the reputation for being vicious, tough, not take anything from anybody type of animal, right? I excuse me. I remember again another shadow day. It always happened on days I was first meeting an animal, like because you have this picture of what the animal's going to be like, right? I thought it was going to be like what what they show with honey badgers on TV, but
yeah.
worse because let me clarify something for the folks out there. Honey badger is not the toughest animal out there. The wolverine is, and they're in the same family. Okay, Muscelidae. So they are 100% tougher and take no mess from anybody type of animal than the honey badger. Argue me with me if you want to. Anyways, so the walking in there into their behind the scenes enclosure, right? Again, protected contact. I assume this thing is going to be snarly and like snappy and give me the food now. Rrr, you know? No, this might have been the sweetest animal I had ever worked with in that area. And he's just like, the way he looked at you, like, you've seen a bear.
Yeah.
Imagine like a little miniature bear, like a pocket-sized sweet little bear.
Pocket
Just
bear.
a pocket bear. They're the cutest. He was like he had this. Okay, look, not to anthropomorphize anybody or any animal. They're not smiling, but 100% looks like he had a smile on his face, like just the most content little bear. Oh gosh, just the way he took food so gently from you through the protective barrier. It was just like, yeah, kind of like how a bear, like a grizzly bear. If you've ever fed a grizzly bear, Rick, super
Protective
gentle.
contact, not in person.
Excuse me, protective contact. They take right. I guess we have to like remind people.
We absolutely have to, yes. And I was going to follow up with, by the way, this whole talk about how nice the hippos are and how nice the Wolverine is because they know they're keepers. You jump in with them, you're done.
Yes, we got to make sure. Yeah, don't try this anywhere else. It's game over for you. That's why I'm presenting it with that information, because you hear so much about these animals, and those rumors are true about them, yes. But in this setting, when they trust us, they know us.
Right, when the relationship is there with the person that takes care of them.
Wow, they can be so sweet. And he was, okay. Also, to show that he wasn't hungry and wasn't like a vicious little killer, he had a frog friend. He had a den. Okay, he had a den where he would go and take a nap, every day after his little run, and he'd walk in his den. He'd go and sniff the frog, look at it, then he'd go lay down. And the frog, I kid you not, Rick. You can ask my coworkers from back in the time. This frog would hop near it. It was a northern red-legged frog, I think, and it would hop and sit near Diablo. And while Diablo was sleeping, and he would just hang out with him.
I think that if that frog knew Diablo was cool with him being there, what a great friend for the frog to have.
And that frog was there for some time. It was a couple years. And Diablo never ate it. Never ate that frog. Well, we named that frog. Oh gosh, I don't remember what the frog's name was, because it wasn't like an exhibit animal. It was just a wild frog. Just like, I think it was a female too, actually, because it was big. She was a big girl, and usually those frogs were like, females are bigger.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I love it, dude. I love it. We're getting close to an hour here, and I want to recognize that sometimes our audience doesn't have the opportunity to listen to much more than an hour. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I want to extend an invitation for you to be a regular guest on Animals, Nature, and You. How's that sound?
That sounds superb.
Awesome.
I would be on it every week if I could.
Well, I mean, I have other guests, so, don't hog the mic, man.
No. I like mic time. No, there's a lot of people that have important things to say.
Maybe we'll go with monthly. How's that sound?
I'm great with that.
All right. Fair enough. Well, with that, before we do wrap up, I do want to ask, is there anything, I mean, we covered a lot today, and I appreciate you so much, that, but is there anything you'd like to, a little nugget, a little thought you'd like to leave behind for our audience until you're on next time?
Yeah, so everybody listening to this podcast right now, Animals, Nature, and You is probably going to be the best new podcast of 2026. And if you're not listening to it, what's wrong with you? Rick is an amazing human, an amazing entity on this planet, and definitely worth listening to. More than that, like, he has a lot of insight and great things to say, and there's going to be a lot of amazing people on this show. I know that for a fact. So, not counting myself, but I will. See, this is me. This is 2026 me. I'm going to toot my own horn here.
Absolutely.
I think I'm okay.
You're awesome, dude.
So, no, seriously, no, Rick, thank you so much for this opportunity. This is like a dream come true for me, and I'm so happy that you're able to get your very own platform. This is awesome.
Well, thank you, good sir. I'll make sure the check is in the mail for that advertisement you just gave me.
10% royalties too.
Right, there you go. There it is. There it is.
No.
All right, buddy. Well, I will make sure that in the show notes, this is going to be on YouTube and everywhere podcasts are available, that I'll have all your links in the way people can find you on social media, find your website. And if they're smart, they'll sign up to go on a trip with you to Costa Rica as well. So I'll have all that in the episode notes for everybody. And hey, man, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Rick. This is awesome.
And of course, thank you to my dear listeners and viewers if you're watching here on YouTube or wherever else this might appear. I appreciate you tremendously, and I hope you got as much out of this episode as I did. It's always such a pleasure for me to talk to Jordan. We've known each other for so long, and knowing his backstory, I'm glad he was willing and able to share that with you as well. Animals, Nature, and You, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show and even talking with Jordan, it's about the connections. It's about understanding ourselves and nature and animals. Coming up, we have an interview with, someone who is very specialized in working with and understanding cheetahs. Other folks who are naturalists out there in the wilds, taking people on hikes to teach them more and help them inspire their curiosity. In our next episode coming up, we have a documentary filmmaker who doesn't do, or this particular film we're talking about, isn't about wildlife documentary. It's about understanding how we as humans can connect with nature even in urban settings. It's a great conversation. It's already out. If you're listening to or if you listen to this episode, this week is part of the launch week for Animals, Nature, and You, which means several episodes coming out at once. And then from here on out, every Thursday, there'll be a new episode waiting for you. So be sure to subscribe, make sure you follow, or however you can make sure you're notified and get to keep up with all the cool episodes. I've been spending weeks doing interviews, getting ready for the launch of this podcast. And the guest lineup is just so wonderful. Great people to talk to. Some interviews already done, some interviews coming up. And I think you're really going to get a lot out of this and enjoy it. I'm very excited to be able to shine a light on all the work people are doing around the world, not just here in the U.S., for animals, nature, and even for ourselves, for you. So with that, I will sign off. I look forward to staying in touch with you. Oh, actually, before I sign off, if you aren't already, you can follow me on social media. Just about every platform, look for Zoology Rick, or you can go to my website, zoologyrick.com. Connect with me there as well. All right, so now I'll sign off. Have a good one, everybody.